Ichigo, do you know how I hate the rain? And it rains in this world too. If your heart is troubled, the skies will become cloudy. If you grieve, it will rain ever so easily.
Okay, so before I start the video, I do want to be honest. I used to be a Bleach hater. I hadn't watched a single episode, but I used to think it was trash because everyone else was saying so. Now fast forward to today, Bleach is my favorite anime of all time. I'm not saying that it's the best written show ever, but it still remains my favorite because of the way that it's changed my life and the way that I view the world. Now to understand how I got here, let me tell you a little about myself and how I got into watching this absolute peak. So for most of my life, I was known to be that one kid in the friend group who was just the most average, on the chubbier side, and was really just the group punching bag. As I was growing up, I realized that most of these so-called friends didn't really care about me or my feelings. My role was a punching bag and nothing else. My dad was never around. I mean, he was present, but that was it. He didn't feel like he was really in my life or that he really cared about me, and I developed certain insecurities due to all of this. I was the most body dysmorphic out of everyone. I was the only one without a real goal or passion, and the only thing that had going for me was that I was an above average tennis player. But I soon realized that my dreams of going pro were less than 1%. And with my parents shutting down every real hobby I had, I was literally left with nothing. No one who understood me, and shattered dreams. Then one day while browsing YouTube, I clicked on a video that looked pretty interesting. It was about a spiky yellow-haired kid named Naruto. This was my very first time actually interacting with an anime. Now at the time, I didn't even know what anime was. I just thought this was a cartoon. I thought all the goofy overlays over the video was part of the actual show, and not a way that the creator was trying to avoid a copyright strike on YouTube. Even so, I felt connected to the show. It was a feeling that I've never experienced before, and I'd finally found it. I finished Naruto and a couple more shows, and anime had officially become my comfort space. And little by little, I was feeling a passion slowly returning that I lost in my childhood, and it returned to me the more that I watched anime. I was starting to brim with more light than I'd ever had, and I'd even managed to watch all of One Piece. That was one of the greatest experiences of my life. So now I'd finished 2 out of the big 3, and they were my top 2 anime. I felt bittersweet, and I wondered what to do next. And wait, did I say the big 3? 3? And that's when I realized that there was still one more show left in the trio, and this was none other than Bleach. Up to this point, I had heard of Bleach before, but it wasn't in the positive light that I was expecting. This was before 1,000 Year Blood War was even announced of airing, so the Bleach community was practically dead to me. I found myself questioning whether or not Bleach should even be in the big 3, and I will admit I wasn't that smart back then. I was a Bleach hater. I'd put it off for a while after finishing One Piece, and I was actually very skeptical on whether or not I should start it. So after months of stalling and a little push from this video by Mesby, I started Bleach. And this is not an exaggeration, but this is literally the moment my entire life changed. And the first arc of Bleach, oh how we go back, the Agent of the Shinigami arc. A lot of people call this a slow, boring arc, but to me, I was immediately drawn into the series, man. See, I was always someone who was into ghost stories. I love the supernatural. I listened to these stories all the time before sleeping. So when I found out that Bleach was a show about spirits, the dead, souls, evil ghosts, etc., I was getting hooked at an astronomical rate. And even better, I enjoyed every moment that Ichigo was on the screen. And don't get me wrong, I love characters like Naruto and Luffy and Gon and blah blah blah, but this was the first time that I'd ever watched a show with this type of main character. I really had been a shonen brain guy back in the day, so I was quite surprised when I found out that Ichigo was pretty different. He wasn't extremely hungry all the time, he wasn't yelling all the time, he wasn't pulling insane stunts in front of the whole town to try and gather attention. He was normal, average, just like me or any other student. Ichigo is literally a normal high schooler who went to class, he wasn't dumb as bricks, and he had a living family. I was so used to my protagonist being castaway orphans that I was so shocked to see a side of a normal family. I loved this first arc so much, and I really cannot stress that enough. I loved how it built the world up, and I felt a sort of relatability to the show that I hadn't really felt before. It was a weird feeling. I felt like I was getting nostalgic even though I'd never actually watched the show before. So then I did what any normal person would do, and I continued watching, and I was hooked ever since the moment that Ichigo drove the Menos back and Byakuya hits bro with this crazy bar. You're slow even when you're falling. Bro, that is so tough. And this with the music in the show just hits me so hard. I honestly need a whole video just to glaze the music in Bleach because nobody told me that it was this good. Just know, bro, these OSTs are the greatest that I've ever listened to in all of anime, period. I can't stress enough how much it elevates every scene. Literally, the opening scene of the show has On the Precipice of Defeat playing and Rukia's Cold Moon scene. They blended together so well, and it's literally peak. Anyways, we get into Soul Society, and I will not be able to talk about this whole arc today, but it was peak. I don't even know what to say. It was definitely my favorite arc in anime up to that point. I'll keep it at that. But it's really here that I noticed subtle changes in my life that would keep occurring and change me for the better. I'll be honest, I was on the verge of depression before starting the series. I wasn't in shape and just wasn't taking care of myself overall, but this all started to change as I binged the show. Before this, I'd heard that the usual stereotype for anime watchers was that they don't go outside and they don't touch grass and they stink, but this was the complete opposite for me. Bleach literally got me into the gym. I started hitting weights consistently, and months later, I lost over 30 pounds. I never even thought what I'd done would be possible. I wasn't a slob anymore, and I actually learned to express myself better. Almost all the kids in my high school listened to rap, Travis Scott, you can name tons of artists, and to be honest, I was never really into rap. I liked it, but I wasn't really into it that much, so I was the odd one out, and I would usually pretend to love the genre just so I could fit in with the other kids. And guess what? Bleach also changed this. Now 90% of what I listen to is Bleach OSTs, Bleach openings, Bleach endings. Whenever I'm trying to max out at the gym, I have Treachery playing. I looked at my Spotify Wrapped one day, and literally 99% of it was Shirosagi. So that man is the GOAT right there. Absolute perfection. So literally my whole music taste has transformed into Bleach. I listen to these songs every single day, and it has literally become an essential part of my life. Moments in the show hit me just as hard too. Rukia telling Ichigo to stop groveling and remember all the hopeless situations he's overcome, and Ichigo crying in the rain. This was the first time an anime had really made me cry. Ichigo's vulnerability is one of my favorite aspects of the whole show. I can't stress how much I love characters who are flawed and relatable, and seeing Ichigo being forced into this world he never wanted to be in, having to rapidly get stronger so he could save the person who changed his destiny, struggling to suppress his inner hollow, and setting out to a whole different dimension to battle enemies with terrifying power, getting a hole blasted in his chest 2 times by the same guy, but still having the will to fight because he needs to win and protect everyone. Before this, I'd always felt like I was the only person struggling in the world. I thought I was at the end of the rope, the very bottom of the ocean with nothing to grab onto, nothing to help me get out of this dark, murky water. But through all of that, one thing remains clear. I am still living and very much present today. I've gone through so much, but every time I've managed to keep my head up. Now, I'm not saying I've been through countless battles like Ichigo, but if you dumb it down, both of us have struggled and overcame obstacles even if we felt like it's hopeless. I'm not fighting because I think I can win. I'm fighting because I have to win. Stuff like this just resonates with me so much, and now that I think about it, I am happy that I watched Bleach when I got a little older compared to when I started watching anime in middle school. This isn't to diss other shows, but I just feel like I wouldn't understand the true meaning behind certain things if I hadn't been a bit older. Now, I'm not saying that Bleach is a seinen. It's still a shonen anime at the end of the day, but there's definitely flaws that the show has. I'm not gonna sit here and ignore that and act like Bleach is the most masterfully written show of all time, but it still remains my favorite due to the personal impact it's had with me, and it's literally turned my whole worldview upside down. Even if I'm doing something simple like getting groceries, walking to class, going to the gym, I'll somehow connect it to Bleach. I know it's crazy, but I just can't stop thinking about it, and my hype level has been at an all-time high with Cour 4 coming out on July 25th, literally a day after writing the script. I am so proud to be a Bleach fan, and I love all the people in this wonderful community. Thank you guys so much. Bankai, everyone. Peace out.